Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Auto Great Podcast. My name is Daniel Lugo. I'm your host, and today I have Bray Martin here. Today's going to be a great conversation that I think all you guys are going to learn something from. So please take out your notebooks. And as always, thank you for your support. So before we get started, Ray, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, my name's Ray Martin. I live in the UK now. I've lived all over the world, and I maybe we'll talk about that in our conversation. But I am in my 60s, and I work as a leadership coach and work with people to help them find what I call their own true path in life, which is something I strongly and passionately believe in that everyone should do in their lifetime.
All right. No, I think your story is really interesting. And then I'm going to hit that with one of the questions. But
Yeah,
the
great.
first question that I want to hit on the podcast is in your journey, has there been a
Yes.
moment when you felt you were rock bottom and didn't see the light of day?
Yeah, I mean, a couple, but the biggest one probably happened for me in about 2004. I was at that time I was the CEO of a company I'd founded. I was in my early 40s. I was considered by the world to be a really successful person, and I'd received awards in England for being Business Leader of the Year from a national newspaper, and I had a lot of accolades, etc. But one day I came back from home from a business meeting, and my wife was my business partner. She worked in the company with me. And she told me quite suddenly and unexpectedly that she decided she wanted to leave our marriage and leave the company. And that was pretty shocking. I didn't see it coming. It tore my life right down the middle immediately. And within a couple of days, my father got very ill and he went into hospital and he died shortly afterwards. So there was this sort of within 2 or 3 months, my company was changing and I was losing my key partner. I was out of my home. I couldn't live there anymore. My marriage was coming to an end and my father was being buried. And I was just completely broken. That's my lowest point in life, I would say, so far. That's the moment that came to my thinking. Yeah,
Oh wow, no. That's a lot because losing a partner and then losing your father, that's pretty strong. And what would you say was the biggest lesson that you learned in that journey?
oh gosh, the biggest lesson. Well, there's many, but the first one that came to my thinking was when you look backwards, you realize that everything happens for a really good reason. It doesn't feel like that at the time. It really, really doesn't. It feels so low and so dark. But then as time passes and new events unfold and new water is flowing under your bridge, you start to realize, wow, this is perhaps actually quite a good thing that this has happened for me. That's, I would say, the biggest lesson is to know and trust that whatever is happening, good, bad, right, wrong, it doesn't matter what you feel about it. That generally, it's always in the best interests of your evolution somehow. And if you trust that, you've got a different kind of life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I tell people that
Yeah,
even though at the time it might seem hard, it's gonna be
yeah,
it's supposed to be your good. It's gonna be
yeah,
good in the end, but you have to
yeah,
trust it. For me, when I was first in my surgeries, I was like, why me? Why this?
yes.
And
I
then
don't know
everything
about your
seemed bad at
surgeries,
the moment.
Daniel. Tell me, can you
Yeah,
tell me a bit about the surgeries?
yeah. It sounds like repetitive for my listeners, but the I went through 8 surgeries for something called Crohn's disease.
Right.
That I had the removal of my entire colon.
Yeah.
The first surgery I went through, I almost died in that one. I was
Gosh.
really close to being on the other side. But
Gosh.
at that time, in those surgeries, going back to what we were saying, I felt terrible. I was like,
Uh,
why me? Why this? But now, 3 years later, after fighting 8 surgeries. And the last one was August of last year. I realized that I'm 100% better now
mm,
than I was back then.
mm,
And if you could give me the chance to go back and change it, I wouldn't,
mm.
because I wouldn't become the person that I am today if I didn't go through those. So
Yeah,
even though
exactly.
they are hard moments at first, they are for
Yeah,
you to build character.
yeah. Gosh. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's quite an ordeal that you've been through.
No, I don't put my. It was hard, yes,
Mm,
100% it was hard. But looking at the things that others go through, it made me
mm.
realize that mine wasn't that big of a deal, that I could get through it. And
Yeah.
then that changed my mindset, and I was like, done. I'm heading
Yes.
towards.
Yes. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So
Okay.
was there a big influence in your journey that you said, okay, I'm going to this, but after seeing this person or after reading this,
There was.
hearing
Yeah.
this, it changed our perspective?
Yeah. I mean, when I was really at the lowest point, a really good friend of mine, her name's Julie Parker, she talked to me and said, this is pretty bad, but I had a similar experience she described she had. And she said, I did some traveling when I was at a low point. I got a backpack and I went traveling for about 4 years around Asia, and it totally opened up my mind and my heart, and it changed my perspective, and it gave me some new insight. She said, why don't you consider something? And I just laughed when she suggested it. It seemed like such a ridiculous suggestion for someone who was a businessman in London with lots of financial obligations and a high cost lifestyle and all this sort of thing. I sort of said, "No, that's crazy. What's the point of backpacking around the world? That's pointless. I'm not doing that." And I laughed it off. But then a few months later, was still at the lowest point, and a friend of mine gave me another piece of advice. Said, if you're really at a low point, you just can't see a way forward, and everything looks dark, and there is no way out. One of the best things you can do is to take your attention off yourself, find another person who's in trouble or needs help, and go 100% in service to help them and forget about yourself for a while. And I thought about that. I thought, actually, that's quite profound. I'm going to do that. So I started to look for people that I could find who needed help. And weirdly enough, I found a friend of mine who'd moved to Australia with her husband, who had a very young child and now had breast cancer, and was needing to undergo treatment for it, and her life was going to be stressed. So I reached out to her and said, how would you feel if I came to Australia for a month and just took care of you and Pete and Matt, and just looked after you and supported you and just was there to help? She said, oh, that would be brilliant. I'd love that. So I did. I went to Australia, which happens to be coincidentally where my friend Julie Parker lives. She also lives in a different part of Australia. So when I finished my month helping Elizabeth, nothing had changed. I thought this advice was rubbish. I feel exactly the same, in the same low funk. Nothing has really shifted. So I went up to see Julie, and she said, me and my mum are going to see a play tonight or the next night. Do you want to come and join us? And I went along to see the play, and I noticed that the theatre where the play was being staged was having an audition for a play that was going to come on next after I'd gone back to England, and it was about an English member of parliament. And I said to them both for a joke, I should be in that play because I've got the perfect British accent. I'd play the part really well. I wasn't an actor. I had no experience. And Julie said to me, well, I actually know the director of the play is doing the casting. I could put in a word for you, if you go to the audition on Sunday. So I said, okay, I'll go to the audition on Sunday, thinking I'm never going to be in this. I'm going home the next day after. And I went to the audition, and I did a really good audition. And the guy, Wayne, his name is, said to me, would I like the leading role in the play, the main character, like on stage for an hour and a half every night? And I said, that's crazy. You could never let me do that. You've got paying customers coming into the theatre every night, and I've never done any acting at all publicly. He said, no, I know, I think you'd be brilliant. We really want you to do it. So I agreed to do it. And I spent 3 months in Australia rehearsing for the play and acted in the play and got brilliant reviews. And that actually changed my life doing that. It was a massive, massive change in the direction of my life. And that was what led to me taking the 6-month sabbatical that I decided to take after I'd done the play in Australia. I came back to England and put my house on the market. And Julie's initial suggestion of traveling around the world now seemed like a really good idea, because that experience had really opened up my mind. And I decided to take a 6-month sabbatical. By the way, the 6-month sabbatical, it turned into 14 years of living out of my backpack. I never went back after 6 months. So perhaps we can unpack some of that, but that's what happened.
Wow. And in that journey, what were
Yeah.
the biggest moments of like more than 14 years of going around
Oh,
the world?
there were loads. In fact, there were so many moments in that 14-year journey that were life-changing for me that I had to write a book about it, because I couldn't tell the stories enough. I just was too many, and I was just exhausted from speaking about it all the time. And loads of people I met, when they heard me tell the stories in person, they said, if you ever write a book, we'd really love to read it. Can we give you our email addresses in case you do write a book? And I laughed and said, I'm not doing this to write a book. I'm doing this to heal myself from all the tragedy I've had to deal with and trying to find a new way of life. But after 5 years, I had about 50 email addresses in my notebook. And I thought, oh my God, the universe wants me to write a book. I better write a book. So I did eventually write a book called Life Without a Tie, and it got published a couple of years ago. So the
Well,
big
if you
ones were,
can please give me,
yeah.
sorry,
Yeah, you go on.
if you can please give me that link, I could put it down in the description for
Yeah,
people
yeah,
to
I will. I'll put it
go
in the
read it.
chat. But the book is called Life Without a Tie, and it's, lots and lots of people have read it now. But the big things in there were, I was in the first couple of years, I was a tourist, a traveler. But in that period as a traveler, I went into a monastery, a Thai Buddhist monastery, and did a 10-day silent Buddhist meditation retreat, because my mind was so agitated. I was so full of shame and guilt about being a crappy husband and being left by my ex-wife. And I felt really low still. So I did a Vipassana retreat, and it really was a game changer for me. It really opened my mind, and it really enabled me to see how troublesome my own mind was, and that a lot of the suffering I was experiencing was being generated by my own mindset and my own thinking. It wasn't coming from the outside world. I never saw this before. And so that was a massive game changer for me. Having a mindfulness and meditation practice was something I started after that, and I've had it ever since. And it's made a big difference in my life, having a meditation practice and being mindful. And that led to me then looking at where I was in a different way. So I was in Thailand, and I'd been to an elephant sanctuary where they were rescuing elephants that had stepped on landmines and were hurt and damaged and stuff. And all of this was being done voluntarily. They had no money. So I thought, what could I do to help? I could do something. And I met a traveler who was a 6 times marathon runner, and I was nearly 50. So I said to him, Matt, his name is, I said, do you think I could run a marathon, Matt? I'm nearly 50. I've never run in my life. He looked at me and he said, well, you look quite fit. Why don't you stay here for 6 months and I'll train you how to run a marathon? So we shook hands, and I did. I stayed in Chiang Mai in Thailand for 6 months, and I trained. I ran the New York Marathon in 2009, my first one, and I managed to raise $15,000 from donations and sponsors. And I took that money back to Thailand. I took it to an orphanage in Nepal where I'd run a picnic for some young kids when I was in Nepal. And I deployed that money to help those things and spent every single penny on them. Didn't take any penny myself. It was only me, so I didn't have an organization to fund. I just was able to use all the money on that. And it was brilliant. It took me nearly 2 years to do that project. And it was so successful that I decided to keep it going. And I ran 4 more marathons in my 50s and raised over $50,000 for Schools of Hope in Thai, Burma, and a cancer research charity, and did all this running and fundraising during my decade. So that was one of the big stories. And I became a leadership coach in that journey, and I still work as a leadership coach today. And just the whole journey just completely changed and reshaped my life. And I became a published author of a book that's, sold around the world. And none of these things were things that I ever dreamed would happen when I left.
Oh, it's an incredible story. Would you say that that moment when you ran that marathon, fundraise that money, and share it to the orphanage and to
Hmm.
the venues that you
Elephant
wanted
sanctuary.
to share it
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
what did you feel like that was the moment when everything seemed to like, okay, now I am where I need to be?
Yeah. I mean, it was actually, there was a moment in the race itself. I got to about mile 10 in the marathon when I was running around New York. And I listen to music when I'm running. And I had this song playing in my earbuds. And my girlfriend and her friend were in the crowd with a big poster to encourage me, with a big, slogan going, go on, right, do. And I could see them coming. And I was running, listening to music, knowing it was raising all this money, and my loved one was there. And I was in tears of joy. I was sobbing with joy, full tears, as I was running. I felt like it was the happiest moment of my life up to that moment, and I'll never forget that moment. It's like crystallized in my memory as like a video file. I'll never forget that.
No, it is incredible. You just gave me an idea of what
Yeah,
something that I can do. I love fitness. I love going to the
yeah,
gym, and then I think that's a great idea of what you did. And thank you for helping those around you, for helping kids, everyone.
yeah. You're
So
welcome.
thank you for that.
Yeah, brilliant.
So in in that journey, and now that you're being as a leadership coach,
Mm.
what would you suggest for people to grow in self awareness?
To grow in self awareness, well, I think it means being curious about your own, what I call your autopilot, because we've all got an autopilot that's wired into us. We're habitually and automatically reacting to certain situations in the same way over and over again. And a lot of that isn't a problem. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but sometimes it causes problems in our friendships, in our relationships with our loved ones and our family and our siblings. We react. It causes a bad impact on the other person, and then arguments follow, and we get enraged and angry and disappointed, and all sorts of things happen that we don't really want to have happen. It's not all we intend, but we've got these sort of patterns running inside us that get activated and we react. So to be able to understand all of that to the degree that you can then start to unpick some of the hooks that it has on you, and sort of almost unwire your autopilot, so that if you're in a moment and you feel yourself about to be triggered, that you could pause and say, gosh, I'm about to be triggered any second now. I can feel it kind of bubbling up inside me. But this time, I want to choose a much wiser, more compassionate response to that piece of triggering that's going on. What could I say differently or do differently here? And you've got a chance then to actually start to break some of those patterns. And that is all down to your level of self-awareness and how able you are to respond in the moment, take responsibility for what you feel inside and your life journey and your programming. And it's quite a complex matter, but I think that's what
Would you say
makes it
like a
worth
tip
it.
for people is to do meditation?
One of the things that I found really helpful for myself, because I was one of those people that reacted a lot, is to sit quietly and be still. Now, not everyone likes the form of sitting. That's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people, my partner, she likes to go for a swim that's her meditation. She just swims like lots of lengths to the pool, and it calms her. It enables her to have a space to think and reflect on life, and it's very soothing for her nervous system. Other people like to walk in the forest or in nature. I like to sit, you know, cross-legged and just close my eyes and breathe. And yeah, but it's anything that brings your mind to a quiet, still place. Like, the analogy I like to use, Daniel, is when you go on holiday to France or somewhere, you get a souvenir. It's like a little snow globe, a plastic globe, and you shake it like this, and all the snowflakes flutter around, so you can't see the Eiffel Tower or whatever's in the snow globe. And then when you put it down and you just let it rest and you put it down, all those pieces sink to the bottom. And because it's still, you see for the first time the picture. It's revealed when everything is still. And that is what happens when you're still. Your inner voice of wisdom, the very quiet voice you very rarely hear, that voice becomes louder. You can hear it better, more clearly. You have more access to your innate intelligence, your wisdom, your intuition. You start to be able to connect with that much better when you're still and quiet. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, for me, I am not as much of a sitter.
Yeah,
Consider myself one of those, but going to
yeah,
the gym for me, I think does it for me.
yeah.
I listen to music. I'm on
That's a
my
good
own
one. Yeah,
space.
yeah, that's a good one.
I I tell my parents or whoever, if I'm at the gym, please don't bother me.
Yeah.
That's my time.
Yes.
So yes, I would, like you said, I will suggest to people to find that thing that calms them down. Like your
Yeah,
partner, she likes to swim. You might like to run, walk, anything, but just find that moment to clear your mind because we're often really into sounds and to technology that we don't take rest, right?
yeah,
We don't seek that moment where our thoughts are our thoughts. We're not hearing someone else in our ears. So
yeah,
you just have to be clear because in those moments is when you find the answers you're looking for.
yeah. The problem with thinking,
In
because
those
we all have
moments,
yeah. The the problem
go
with
ahead, go ahead.
thinking, we all have thinking. It's a gift from God that we can actually have thoughts and notice them. That's a gift. But the problem with it is that some are helpful and some are not. So if I sit and talk to you and I think, oh, I really like what Daniel's doing with the podcast. I really like to see if there's a way I can help him reach more people with it. That's a thought that's helpful, and I can do something. But if you say to me that you want me to, someone who else who's got a podcast and you could invite me to be on it, and I'm nervous or scared, and I have a thought which is, oh, I'm not good enough to go on that podcast, or I'm too scared, or I don't think I'd be good enough. I'm going to say, well, sorry, no, I don't really want to do that. And I'm going to limit myself from experiencing something that could be brilliant for me just because I've had a thought. That's all. Just that I've had a thought that I'm not good enough. And it's not 100% true and it's not helpful. So our thinking, we don't think about our thinking. We don't examine our thinking, but our thinking's running all the time. And it's kind of dictating what we say yes and no to. And often, in many cases, we're saying no to things we really ought to think about saying yes to, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Like I've eaten 4 bars of chocolate. I better not have another one. I'll go on then, just have one more.
yes, we have to be careful what we're thinking or what
Yeah, or
we're telling
notice it.
ourselves.
Careful to notice it. That's the most important part.
Yeah, once if you keep telling yourself negative things about yourself, you're
Yeah,
gonna be probably thinking about negative things about yourself. You have to
yeah,
be
exactly.
positive to saying, even though this podcast right now is not the biggest one, it's not like Joe Rogan, who is number one in the
Yes,
world.
yeah,
But my goal is to help people. And if
exactly.
if this podcast helps one, because that's what I'm
Yeah,
doing the podcast. I'm doing it
yeah,
for every guest has a story. So someone out there
yeah,
is going to
brilliant.
connect with that story. So
And I'm
someone
sure there are
might
loads of people.
be saying, yeah,
Yeah,
might be saying, oh, I need to do some traveling so that I can clear my mind, for example, or I
yeah,
need to walk, clear my mind. But
yeah,
that's the goal of the podcast. That's
exactly. And
exactly what we're doing. We have to be positive.
yeah, and I am sure there are lots of people who are hearing this who this would be very valuable information for. So I'm sure you are helping more than one.
Hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah.
I always tell, I'm writing my own book, which hopefully is releasing in May,
What's it about?
that it's about my story and the lessons I
Okay.
learned in it. So
Okay. Well,
it
send
goes
me a link to
a
it. I
lot
will read it.
deeper. Yes, for sure. It goes a lot deeper into the story, all the
Yeah.
thoughts, the memories, the funny moments, the sad moments. and all the lessons that I learned, that's going to be the book about.
Brilliant.
So
Is it
yeah,
hard?
so
Do you find it
hopefully
hard to? Do you find it hard to um, tease out the wisdom that you've gained? Is that hard to do, to write it down?
it it is kind of hard, but for example, I edited the first time.
Yeah.
I added something that first time because I
Okay.
learned it after from a
Yeah.
book or a classroom
Yeah.
that I heard it and I was like, wow, this is going to the because I could find it how it connected to my story.
Yeah. No, I get you.
So it it was good. I think I have done more like face to face that I think I connect with people. That's
Yeah.
where I show I think my wisdom is best. Hopefully I'm doing a good job on the
Right.
book and hopefully
Yeah.
helps a
Great.
bunch of people. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to do it on paper. You can say it in your
Yeah.
head. I'm not much
Yeah.
of a
Oh,
writer,
yeah. Yeah. I asked because
so
when I was writing my own book, I finished the story, and my editors, who were really helpful to me, my editors said, could I write the last chapter looking backwards and what was the wisdom that I'd gained from the 14 years? And that took me, it was really hard, Daniel. It took me at least a month to write down what has become known now as my 6 rules for happiness. They're in the book. But to get these 6 rules written out, like as one page describing each one and what you have to do to make these rules come alive, it took me like ages and ages. I found it was harder than writing the rest of the book. So
hopefully it has taken a while, more than a month to write the book.
yeah,
Like the book is about 190 pages,
yeah,
so it took a long time to finish it. I
yeah,
wrote it while I was going through surgeries,
yeah. Gosh,
so it was the story was going as
yeah,
the
yeah,
book was being written. So I was like, I
yeah.
need to
Brilliant.
wait because the journey is not over. I have the surgery like
Yeah,
soon, so I'm gonna wait
yeah,
here until all those surgeries passes to write again.
yeah. And where are you? Are you Spanish or where are you from?
I am from Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela. I live here in the
Oh, okay,
United States,
okay, okay. Got you. Where are you in America? Where are you living now?
Houston, Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay, great, nice.
Yeah, so it, I have the accent, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
hopefully, my goal is to be a motivational coach to help people because I know
yeah.
that I
Brilliant.
can do more with the journey I was given. So that's
Yeah,
why I'm
brilliant.
writing the book. That's why I'm doing the podcast. I'm doing videos on social media just to start
Yes.
out like this plan of trying to help people.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, that's a great, great path to walk. And it sounds like it's the right one for you.
Yeah, it it feels like for me. So
Yeah.
Ray,
Yeah.
another question here. What would
Yeah.
you like your legacy to be?
Oh, gosh. I think about this sometimes, not often. I'm in my 60s. I think the rest of my life is really going to be about family in a big way for me. I've done a lot of things in my business career, which has lasted 50 years, and I've helped a lot of people. But I think for me, I've got grandchildren and family that I think is my legacy, and I just want to see them, get a good start in life and grow up and be really happy and set on their way. And if the more I just want to be on a one by one basis, help as many people as I can to live a better life in my own community. It doesn't have to be on a grand scale. I would like, obviously, I'm sure we'd all love to see the world be at peace, the end of war, corruption and things like this. But I really don't feel I can directly affect those things so easily. I can affect it a little bit, but that's really not my remit. But my local community and my family and friends are. I can directly affect those people. So I'm going to focus on that, perhaps. And also, I want to do more traveling. I've bought a motorbike last year, and I really want to do some touring with my partner on the bike. So to be more adventurous, I'd like to be known as one of the most adventurous 60 or 70-year-olds in England. So, That would be a great legacy for me, to be Mr. Adventure in his 70s.
Mr. Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Not like the hero saving people, but certainly being. I think being fit and physically well for me is really, really important. Having mobility, being able to walk, run. Like this morning, I went for a run for about 3 or 4 kilometers, and I felt really well, and my body's moving and working really well in my mid 60s, and I'm going to try and run another marathon this year. So I'm really interested in keeping that going as long as possible and being
Oh,
well.
that's good. You had to take care of your body in order to
Yeah,
do that.
definitely, definitely, and hope, pray that your body is durable, because people's joints and hearts stop. It's not your own fault necessarily. It's just what you're given.
Question here. What would you like to leave the audience?
Gosh, what a hard choice that is, because there's got lots of gems. But I think the one that I would say is worth pursuing is finding your own true path. I think is the greatest gift you can give to yourself in your life. And there's a guy who lived till recently called Sir Ken Robinson. He was a brilliant man, he very great speaker as well. He wrote a book about being in your element, which is when you've got these natural God-given talents, things you're really, really good at, and then you've got passions, things that you really care about, like the orphanage or the elephants in my case. And you get your talents and what you care about, and you put them together to work in the intersection of those two, which for me was fundraising for them, using my business skills and talents and stuff like that. And that puts you in your element. And that's the place where you can do it 24 hours a day and you just get more energy. You never get tired. You love every second of it. It's really creative. You feel so energized. You radiate this energy to everyone around you. It's contagious. And you never feel like you're doing work. Even though you are working probably harder than a lot of people who don't like their work, it never feels like work. You feel like you're doing what you really love. I have a brother, an older brother, when we were little kids, my brother loved aeroplanes since we were 4 or 5. And he got a job working as a pilot for British Airways. And so he's retired now. He spent his whole life flying these huge airplanes every day and got paid loads of money for doing it. But he absolutely loved it. He just absolutely was doing every day what he really loved and was good at. So that would be my encouragement to anyone listening. Don't settle for something. Find what puts you in your element that really brings you alive, because the world needs people who are alive and who are like that. That's what we need in the world, I think. So that would be it.
I think there's no better way to end the podcast. So, Ray, thank you so
Yeah,
much for being here. Thank you for sharing your journey and to
you're
talking to
welcome.
my audience. I'm gonna provide the links down in the description so that people can go buy your book and read it. And
Yeah, brilliant.
if they can follow you on any social medias, I will leave those links down in the description. Thank you
Okay.
as always for you that are listening in, for coming in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with the people that you love so that we can keep sharing this message all across the world and keep changing lives. So thank you so much again. May God bless you all and take care.